Hello everyone, today I'd like to share with you something I've been working on for the past couple of months. It's a games overview list curated by myself to include, in my opinion, some of the best PlayStation and Xbox single player experiences on the console. The list mainly consists of, but not limited to, AAA higher budget games, and this is more to just prevent the list from becoming unnecessarily bloated in a way. Now before I get into explaining the list, I just want to preface by saying all the selected games on the list are based on my personal experiences and opinions, so naturally not all the games on here are really going to appeal to everyone, and people might not agree with some of the choices I've made. However, for those of you looking to maybe try out a new game, or just looking to see what the newest games that are coming out are and when they're coming out, then the list might be actually pretty useful. So with that out of the way, I present to you my list. First off, you can see here it's made with Google Sheets. I actually like this because it syncs up to the cloud automatically, so any adjustments I make on the go will just be updated live. Secondly, if anyone finds any discrepancies in the information, they can leave a comment on the spreadsheet, and then I can see the comment when I log in next time, and then I can adjust it or change it by any means necessary and just update the list as we go. So on the left hand side over here, you can see there's a bunch of YouTube symbols and controllers. They refer to me having a playlist on my channel where I either cover the trailers or gameplay previews, or just give my opinions on the new games coming out. And the controllers specifically refer to me doing a walkthrough of that game, which you can also find on the channel. There's a hyperlink to get to those playlists directly just by clicking on the name of the game. However, I have to warn you, some of my older walkthroughs do lack a little bit of production quality, but feel free to check that stuff out if you would like to do that. So next to that, you'll find the titles. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's just the title of the game. So all the ones highlighted in blue are exclusive to PlayStation, and the green ones are exclusive to Xbox. If the font is in italics, if I can find one here, like this one, Sifu, it means it is a timed exclusive and it will eventually come to the other platform. Also, while we're here, I should probably mention the buttons up the top. These buttons are scripted to categorize the columns based on the information in them. So for example, I click on title, it categorizes this column based on alphabetical order. So if we go to the very top now, we can see A Plague's Tale, AAA horror game, A Quiet Place, and all of these buttons up the top here categorize their columns in their own specific way. So obviously Game Pass, that's going to categorize it and show us all the Game Pass games. Right now it is sort of only really a Game Pass list because this column is based on games that are going to enter a subscription service at launch, and PlayStation isn't really doing that much. Stray is actually a pretty recent one. It's going to come out on PS Plus Extra, so you can see that one's in there. But apart from that, pretty much just a Game Pass list at this point, but it's still pretty useful to have. Then we've got sort by date. We can also categorize it by the date. You can see here all the games that haven't actually been released yet are in italics, and the ones that either have an officially announced date or that have already been released are in bold. You can also see here the games that are yet to be released are highlighted in yellow, and that gets updated automatically. The next column, developer, pretty straightforward. You can search by developer if you would like to do that. I think sometimes it's pretty interesting to see the different games that the developers have developed. Followed by that, we have engine. I might do a categorization for engine in the future, but I haven't really finished this column yet. This spreadsheet is constantly going to be a work in progress, so I'll just keep constantly adding things to it, adding news, adding updates. It's just going to keep getting better and better, hopefully. Now, the next four columns are pretty interesting. We've got OpenCritic, Metacritic, Aggregator Average, and Aged Average. So OpenCritic and Metacritic, they're pretty well-known aggregator sites. They take in the review scores of many industry trusted reviewers. We'll refer to them as that, and then they spit out an average score based on all the reviews. So these don't actually differ that much, as you would expect, because they're pretty much based on pretty much the same reviews, but sometimes they do differ a little bit. So because of that, I created an aggregator average. You can see that here, and you can also sort by aggregator average. So if we click on this, you can see Grand Theft Auto 4 is leading the way from 2008 with a score of 98 so far, because it was rated on Metacritic, but OpenCritic is a little bit of a newer aggregator. So you can see some of these scores here on the right-hand side haven't actually been filled out because there isn't any data on the site. Nevertheless, there is Metacritic data, so we've got that in there. Now to the column to the left here, aged average is something I added because I wanted a way of comparing the aggregator average of games based on how old they are. Now, I'm not sure if this is the best way to do this, but to get the aged average, you subtract the age of the game in years from the aggregator average. So for example, if a game was released in 2008, that's 14 years ago. So you take the aggregator average and then you minus 14. And it sort of gives you a weighted result based on how old the game is, which is, I think, pretty interesting because the game released in 2008 with a score of 90 plus. These days might not really be a 90 plus game just because it's aged a little bit. So I actually think it's a really nice way of comparing games just based on how old they are. I'm not sure if the -1 points per year is really the right way to go about it. Maybe it should be a little bit more, maybe it should be a little bit less, or maybe in the first 3 or 4 years, it shouldn't get any points deducted because it's not really that old. And then after that, it should get like -1 point. I'm not really sure. This is sort of an experiment at this point. I think it's pretty interesting to look at though. If you click on it now and they go to the top, Elden Ring had an aggregator average of 95.5. And because it was only released this year, obviously it has no deductions. But something like, for example, Red Dead Redemption had an aggregator average of 96.5. So actually a little bit higher, but because it came out a few years ago, it drops down to 93.5. And it's actually a really interesting column to compare games based on how old they are. I did this because I feel like there's something to be said for games feeling aged, or I think we hear the term thrown around a lot, they don't hold up anymore. And like I said, even though a game when it was released, it could have been absolutely incredible, but because it was 20 years ago, a game that was incredible 20 years ago might not be as incredible as it is today. Now I know a lot of people with these nostalgic fears for games are probably going to hate on me a little bit, and I think my opinion in this regard is a little bit controversial, but the list is there if you want to take a look at it, and if you have any suggestions for how I could maybe do this better, just let me know. Now finally, on the right hand side, we have days since last news update. Now this is where things get pretty interesting. So if I sort by date, and I look at all these games that haven't actually been released yet, I've been updating different pieces of news revealed for these games and also put a days since last news update. So you know, okay, so news for this game came out 2 days ago, or news for this game, the last bit of news we got came out 2 years ago. And it's also quite an interesting column because if you look at a game coming out maybe towards the end of this year and we haven't heard anything about it, for example, let's take this one here. The last time we heard an update, or the last time I specifically heard an update, was 246 days ago. And if we go over, it's this one by Saber Interactive called A Quiet Place. Now there was no official release date here, that's why I've got 31st of the 12th, 2022. But because the last time we heard anything about this game was over 200 days ago, we can probably assume that it's not going to be released in 2022 anymore. The developers are really silent about the game, we haven't heard anything. By the way, before I go any further, I should probably tell you guys I get all my information for the news for these games from either Reddit, Twitter, or YouTube. Those are those big ones, and I feel like there's a big community in all three of those platforms where you pretty much are gonna cover all the news coming out in a very rapid manner. And obviously I'm only one person, I don't think I will ever get all the news all the time, so maybe there will be some gaps in the news updates here, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job right now. And like I said, if you guys see any updates that I may have missed, you can always leave a comment there and then I can go in there and sort it out when I get a chance. So that's about it. I usually update the list about a couple of times a week. I do have a few extra bits of information over on the right hand side here. So yeah, the only difference between the last news update here and the last modification is this is when we received our last piece of news for it. Just in case I got to it a little bit later, maybe a week later, and this is when I made the modification to it. So you can see here, the news came out on the 28th of the 6th, but I managed to update it in the morning 2 days later. And this last little column here, years since release, is just a little formula I put in there, so my aged average will be updated automatically. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got a little bit of a legend up the top here, so you can see the aggregate scores, how they change color based on their score they've received. Pretty much the same with the latest update. And you can see here, games that are highlighted in purple, I've also listed those as speculation or not officially announced, because there's a lot of industry insiders or leaks that happen and you don't really know if they're true or not, but sometimes I do like to put them on the list just because they're very interesting to see if they do come true or not. For example, here there might be a Doctor Strange game in development, and then you can view the source on the right hand side and I guess judge for yourself if that source is actually credible or not. So that's about it, guys. At the time of making this video, there is about 422 games listed here. So if you guys are looking to play something new, there's definitely a lot of options. You can sort them by aggregator score, have a look at what games scored how high, and maybe compare that to when they were released. So you might see a game with an aggregator score of 90 plus, but then see, oh, okay, but this game is actually 15 years old. So there might be a little bit of a more recent game that I could try out instead. So that's about it, guys. This list did take me a long time to make, but a little bit of motivation for making this list was just, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really have anything like this, like an all-encompassing list for Xbox or PlayStation that really just listed the big games, the big bangers that are going to come out in the next year or two. And I know kid me would have been very thankful for having something like this to just refer to all the time. So there's one more thing I have to mention before I go. The buttons on this spreadsheet don't actually work online. So you have to go in, make a copy of the spreadsheet, and then when you open it up in your own drive, it should work. I've made it free so anyone can download it and do whatever you want with it. That's the only way to sort of make this work, because like I said, the buttons don't work online. That'd be sort of weird because someone could click the button, it would change the whole layout of the spreadsheet, and then the next person would come in and click a different button, but the other person would still be using it, and there'll be a little bit of a clash there. So the only really way to make this work is The buttons are sort of deactivated until you download the spreadsheet, and then once you've got it downloaded onto your own drive, then you can use the buttons to categorize the data. Just remember though, when you finished it, to close it and open the most recent version of the spreadsheet. Otherwise, any updates I've made to the news and things just won't be there. So that's it guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to ask me any questions. It took a long time for me to make it. I hope you guys all enjoy it. Have a good day guys, catch you later.